In 2024, nearly 500,000 Brits left the UK.
In the US, record numbers of passports are being issued.
And Irish passport applications from the US went to an all-time high.
But what's really driving people away? Is the grass really greener in Portugal? Hello and welcome back to the channel. We are currently in Slovenia, in the mountains.
Beautiful Slovenia.
Very beautiful. After travelling through Austria, and we were in the Czech Republic visiting Prague. What a great city that is.
Oh, it's fabulous.
The weather has also been pretty kind since we left Germany. We think probably better than the weather in Portugal.
Yeah, our friends are not happy. We still have been working though whilst we've been on the road, having our moving to Portugal calls. And whilst we hope we're helping other people, it's been really interesting listening to people's stories about why they are moving. And prior to that, I spoke to so many people at the Place in the Sun show in London about why they were leaving the UK. And so based on those chats, I think it's given us a kind of new and real perspective on this subject.
Yes, whilst you'd have had to have been living on another planet in another universe to not see that there are political and cost of living pressures in every country, many people do not understand that many of the issues affect every country, including the rich countries and like the USA and UK. And by rich, we mean with an average higher salary.
Yeah. So we're going to delve into some of those reasons, and we'd love to hear your stories today. So please do leave a comment. Because traditionally, people think of Portugal as somewhere people retire to get the sun, to play golf. You think the Algarve, right? But times have changed dramatically, and I can say out of all the people that we've spoken to, only a few now fit that category. So I think we partly fit into this category, don't we?
Yeah.
Because whilst we wanted to change our lives, we knew we had to make economic decisions to be able to do that.
Yes, the reality in the UK and the USA that they have the same pressures as the Portuguese have in many respects. The rising cost of living, the unaffordability of housing, and people living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, for sure. And that economic fear is rising for sure. A recent survey found that 70% of Americans report their financial stress is at an all-time high.
That's crazy.
And that's with significant impacts to their mental and their physical health.
Yes, and nearly 60% of Americans don't have enough money put away to handle common financial emergencies. And by that we mean such as a $1,000 unexpected expense. And I think that's probably, I bet that's exactly the same in the UK.
No, for sure it is. Now here's the real killer stat. In 25 of the 100 largest US metropolitan areas, families earning, wait for it, $100,000 annually often face monthly expenses that exceed their earnings.
Wow.
High costs in housing, childcare, healthcare contribute to that financial strain. And what was really interesting was that on one of our videos recently, we spoke about what I called the money trap. I spoke of the fact that I earned a six-figure salary, but we still ran out of money every month. Now, some people commented about, wasn't I lucky to earn that? Of course, yes. And that we were rich. But the point of that video was, if being rich, it isn't about the salary you earn, it's about your salary to cost ratio.
Yeah. In addition, we've spoken to people who've just said that the US now specifically is out of control, or it feels out of control. There was a grandmother who is taking her grandchild, who she looks after, she's adopted, to Portugal because she is scared her social security, so her pension payments, if you like, just won't stretch far enough in the US to look after them with the rising costs. And then you have the other end of the scale, people who would be considered to be doing extremely well in life, but they are being ground down by the constant rising costs of life in the USA. And this has been coming across quite a lot in conversations we've had. And that is about to get a whole lot worse, we think, with the T word.
Yeah. Now that is shocking. People feeling that they can't slow down, they need to keep hustling and slaving away just to keep up with it all, and they're bloody tired. But it feels like they can never get off that treadmill and slow down. But can you blame them for wanting to change their lives?
No.
Some of the examples we've been told recently are shocking, like property taxes on a house being $18,000 a year. That's like a mortgage payment,
I was
right?
going to say that makes council tax in the UK look quite small.
Yeah, blew my mind.
And don't forget the guy that we spoke to who said to take his family of four out for dinner, and this is a regular dinner, nothing fancy, $250 US. And then there's the tipping that's getting out of hand. So it used to be, and certainly I think the last time I went to the States, it was a 10% across the board. But right now...
They were lucky if they got that from the English.
Yeah, exactly. But right now clients are saying it's more like 20 to 30%, and that's the starting point for tipping. And that staff are getting really pushy.
Yeah, I mean, that alone would stop me wanting to go out and have any fun. One, because I don't want the stress.
No.
When I go out for a meal, I want to have a good time. But secondly, just the bloody cheek of it. And okay, I get it. You know, the staff, they are trying to make ends meet, and I guess that's what they're trying to do. But it's so unfair.
Yes, and we've heard people quoting about even things like getting a coffee from a coffee stand in the street or at the station. They're expecting a tip just to hand a coffee over. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. So we have a few friends living in Portugal, and they survive on their UK pensions. A UK pension is just under £12,000 a year. That's about $16,000. And they openly admit that they could never afford to live in the UK. And so many people that live actually in our part of central Portugal came for that reason. Not solely for that reason. Of course, you know, they love Portugal, but it's been a necessity to leave family and friends in order to have some form of half-decent retirement. Some of them still have to choose whether they turn on the heating, or they go cold, or what food they eat, or what they do, where they go out. And the only benefit for many of them is that they could buy a house outright with the equity from their property. So they have no rent or mortgage, or they could get a cheap rental. But those days have also now gone in Portugal. And we know one retired couple, lovely couple, facing a huge challenge trying to find a decent rental because they are being turfed out of their current rental.
Yes, and so those people have the same issues that many of the Portuguese are facing. Rising housing costs, but benefits not keeping up. And then there's the young people coming here as well, you know, UK, USA, well, from all over really. There are a great many of them on YouTube making great content. But they're also economic migrants. They came dreaming of a better life where they could become self-sufficient, actually have a house that they could afford and afford to live in, even if they had to build it themselves. And to try and avoid getting on that treadmill that so many of us faced for years and years. And to be honest, who can blame them?
No, exactly. Yeah, Ben Fogle, who's on UK TV, he featured one of those couples, Luke and Sarah. Hi guys, if you are watching.
You never know.
Probably not. A couple from Malta with a really compelling story of why they had to leave. They were extremely open about how hard it was for them to survive and the fears that they have for the future.
Yes, I remember that episode. They were pretty much surviving on their YouTube income, and that's the reality. But they have a dream, and it's a dream that is worth fighting for.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've also seen high earners who want to get off the hustle treadmill because they're exhausted. People who can't make their salaries keep stretching to keep up with the rising cost of living, and people who are living on their pension and social security who actually fear for their futures in America and the UK.
Yeah, you can start to understand the trends. The young Portuguese, they leave the country to earn more money and have a better standard of living.
Yeah.
And then you have the economic migrants who are coming in the opposite direction, the other way, to get some relief from the financial pressure of life in their country.
Yeah. We have had and seen many Portuguese who come back to live in Portugal, some in our village, when they retire, because they're also exhausted from the treadmill and they're seeking exactly the same thing.
I think this category is self-explanatory, particularly in the USA right now. I think what has shocked us is the extent of the horror. You can only understand really by talking to the folks that actually live there. And the desperation by many who are quite frankly fearful for their lives, literally. Because they don't fit the administration's accepted normal in terms of their sexuality, political preferences, mental health, or their family's special needs.
Yeah. To be even saying this is happening in a country like America, who we used to think led the world, is sort of beyond belief.
Yeah. And even if they aren't affected, we've spoken to people who just want out because of the division and the stress that it causes on a daily basis, you know, that general feeling. So it's like Brexit was in the UK, but times 1,000%. And we remember how bad that was.
How bad that was. So this is the other category. So it does cover some of the economic points that we made above, but it is like the new retirement. People are just not prepared to hustle, slog anymore till they're 65 plus anymore. They want to retire younger or stop the hustle or slow down. And here is a statistic for you. Almost half of Americans have considered or planned to move abroad, to improve their happiness, citing lower living expenses, better quality of life as their primary motivators.
Yeah, and I mean, that covers our reason pretty well. We wanted to change our life, experience a new culture. We wanted to create a life on our terms. And this is such a huge trend now. And I think it was brought on by the pandemic. That certainly put the seed in people's minds, I guess to a large degree. And also there's that hashtag about people in life quiet quitting.
I did that. I was definitely quiet quitting. So in this category, we mustn't also forget the people who change their life because they want to feel safe. Do you remember that lovely couple we met in Coimbra? They bought some furniture from us, I think. They were from Atlanta, and they were telling us about the fact that they were terrified to drive to work every day because the number of people chucking things off bridges to kill drivers and just random shootings.
While they're going along in the car, wasn't it?
While they're going along in the car, and they're just murdering people. And they were also a gay couple, and even back then when we met them, they said they did not feel safe in their own skin. That was to use their words, and that was from the first Trump regime.
Yeah, and the point is, even if statistically that feels like an irrational fear, which I kind of probably where I was before I spoke to these people, you cannot underestimate the feeling of not feeling safe. I mean, it's like you go on a plane and you get that feeling, even though statistically you know that airlines are a safe form of travel.
Yeah, but you can't ignore those stats are very high. So I totally understand that fear, and I see the word safe being used a lot with Portugal, and you can't underestimate the price of that.
So I think for many, Portugal represents freedom, safety, affordability. But people are moving all across Europe, including to the UK. Many of our clients' motivations are financial relief, quality of life, feeling safe, and escaping political tension.
Yeah. Financial relief, that is a word, isn't it? It is financial relief. I love that. I'm going to use that more often. But as we said earlier on, Portugal isn't immune to housing pressure. We deal with a fair few clients looking for rentals. That's what we do. And the rents are rising. In fact, they're getting silly in places like Porto and Lisbon. And there is actually a huge shortage of long-term rentals. Now add to this the challenge that the Portuguese have within this, having to compete with migrants, but without the relative income. So that is a big issue in some areas, and we can totally understand the frustration the Portuguese have.
Yeah, and we are having to manage people's expectations as well, because Portugal is not cheap, not anymore. Yes, some things are cheaper, but it's not the golden unicorn.
No, we get asked for a lot of golden unicorns.
That's about the second or third time it's featured in our videos.
This was one of them. We had to manage expectations of a family coming from Florida, and they thought they were going to find a beach rental for €700 a month. That's just not going to happen.
Or maybe a small hut.
Well, hut, or not a very nice beach, possibly. Even where we live, the rents are rising fast. So I spoke earlier about the retired couple that are currently paying €625 a month for their house. They now can't find anything on a like-for-like basis for less than €1,000. And that is if they can find it at all. They're struggling to even find homes.
Look, let's have an honest moment. We speak to a lot of people who want to leave the UK or the US because they feel trapped by the cost of living, the politics, etc., the pace of life. We get it. We have been there too.
We have.
But here's the thing. People who are running away from something are often the ones that end up going back.
And I believe there is a statistic, it's hard to quantify, but it gets bounded about a lot, that 50% of people go back within 5 years.
Because unless you've taken the time to get clear on what you're running toward, a change of scenery won't fix that deeper discomfort, if you like. So it's kind of like, are you chasing more peace? Are you looking for a better work-life balance? Are you looking for a simpler life? Or are you just fed up with reacting to what's happening around you?
And you can understand that. But moving abroad, it isn't a magic wand. Yes, Portugal is beautiful. Yes, the lifestyle can be totally incredible, but if you're not prepared for the challenges, and we've spoke about these before, bureaucracy, language, slower systems, loneliness, it can be isolating and frustrating.
Yeah, the happiest people we've seen move here are the ones who made the decision on purpose. So, you know, they weren't escaping, they were evolving from where they were. So we think, before you pack your bags, ask yourself, what do I actually want more of in my life? what kind of person do I want to be on the other side of this move? And am I prepared to build that? Because not just find it waiting for me there at the airport when I get off the
New
plane.
life already.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you're running to something meaningful, you're far more likely to thrive and stay.
Yeah. So Portugal isn't a fairy tale, and it is important not to fall for the dream without the data, okay, and asking yourself some honest questions, but with the right plan, it can totally work for you.
Yeah, so do your research, and that is you. You've got to do the research. But importantly, speak to people on the ground. Set realistic expectations, because obviously moving abroad will not fix everything overnight.
No.
You've got to understand the local market and the economy for where you're going, especially if you're on a fixed income or renting.
Yeah, for sure. And yes, it's really good to talk to people that actually live here. And obviously we're actively helping people to navigate this journey. So do book a call, reach out and book a call if you do want some honest boots on the ground advice.
Okay, so that's it for this week. It's certainly tough out there at the moment for everyone, we think. We do hope that you've enjoyed this video, even though the content this week is a little serious. If you're leaving any country for Portugal, do let us know your reason in the comments. We'd love to hear that. And also, did we miss something?
Yeah, probably have.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure someone will comment.
Yeah.
What's your reason for leaving that we talked about?
Might be different to the ones that we had in there.
It may well be different, yeah. So we'd love to hear that. But anyway, in the meantime, have a great week. We will see you next Sunday. And ta-ra for now.